how can you have the biggest social impact and financial impact at the same time? And SheEO is designed very much from that spirit of an and world instead of an either or.
Welcome to She Invests. Join us every week for conversations focused on the growing number of female angel investors, the real unicorns. You'll hear from existing female angel investors, VCs, and fund managers on their investment thesis. From deal flow to exits, they will share the best practices that contribute to their success. Female angel investors will be equipped with the tools and resources to confidently activate their capital in order to make an impact in their community and the global economy. With your host, active angel investor and founder of Hera Angels, Dr. Sylvia Ma.
Well, today we have Vicki Saunders in the She Invest podcast, and we're so excited to have her. Vicki Saunders is an entrepreneur, award-winning mentor, advisor to the next generation of change makers, and leading advocate for entrepreneurship as a way of creating positive transformation in the world. So amazing. Vicki is the founder of SheEO and #RadicalGenerosity, a global initiative to radically transform how we support, finance, and celebrate female entrepreneurs. Vicki has co-founded and run ventures in Europe, Toronto, and Silicon Valley, and taken a company public on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Vicki was recently named one of the 100 most influential leaders of 2015 from EBW, Empowering a Billion Women. And in 2001, Vicki was selected as a global leader for tomorrow by the World Economic Forum. So Vicki, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
So Vicki, walk me through how you created SheEO. It's just so amazing how much this has blown up in this last year or two. And want to know where did that come from? What's the genesis?
I think the genesis, there's a bunch of different pieces, but one of them is being a woman in this crazy world and how challenging that's been, being a female entrepreneur and having a hard time getting funding along the way. In general, just seeing the world very differently than the current narrative and mindset. So if I sort of step back from that, what I mean is we're living in a mindset right now, which is winner takes all. I feel like we live in a giant casino of betting it all on red, bet it all on Uber or Lyft, who's going to win, right? And then whoever wins that wins the market. And this has created such inequality in the world. Right now, 5 people have the same wealth as 3.5 billion people, half the planet. I don't even know where you go from there with that economic model. We need to figure out how to redistribute capital into the hands of small and medium-sized businesses, which basically drive our economy, and create less inequality and more community. That's kind of the larger picture of where I come from. And then the other piece is just, how is it possible that when women are 50% of the population, we only get 4% of venture capital? We only get 4% of dollars loaned by traditional institutions. It's been like this for a really long time, and we just need a reboot and a reset. And so I've been trying to figure out how to do that for a long time and studying system change and behavior change and culture change. And how do we get underneath this challenge? And so for me, it's not really just even a gender issue, it's a culture issue. How do we shift the culture to have a more balanced approach to society? And so SheEO has come up through, I've tried lots of different interventions along the way to figure out how to solve this. And the breakthrough really came when crowdfunding came into the world. And I saw this opportunity to aggregate small amounts of capital into a larger pool of capital on behalf of women innovators.
I love that culture aspect of it with the radical generosity. Obviously, I think that's brilliant of calling it that, because it is, women do want to be generous, but they don't know sometimes how to be generous. They just know about philanthropy. And we talk a lot about this topic on the podcast, is philanthropy versus investing. Have you seen that shift because of having such a small influx of money that you need to invest in, but a huge number of women coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I've been perplexed by this bifurcation that we have of it's either like do good or make money in the past, right? We're coming into a blended approach right now, but I witnessed friends of mine who would sort of, if you think of this 2-pocket strategy, they would reach into their philanthropic pocket and they would, give away $50,000 without really thinking about it. And then if they were going to invest $50,000, they drove themselves crazy for 6 weeks trying to figure out, is this right? Have I done my due diligence, et cetera? Because they're in this mindset of getting their money back. I witnessed people who were investing in exactly the same space as they were doing philanthropy. And I'm like, why are we thinking so differently about this? I don't think of either or, I think of and. And it's like, how can you have the biggest impact, social impact and financial impact at the same time? And SheEO is designed very much from that spirit of an and world instead of an either or.
And what about the entrepreneurs that you invest in? Are they also social impact, or is it more of the culture is social impact and the entrepreneurs? Walk me through that a little bit.
All of the ventures that we select have to be able to answer the question, how are you creating a better world with your business? It's very subjective. We don't use a bunch of, analysis tools around this. I don't think anyone really knows how to measure social impact these days. I'm not interested in using my leadership to fund more businesses that create more inequality in the world or hurt the environment. We're looking to support businesses that have an intention of creating a better world. And so that's definitely a lens we look through with SheEO.
The SheEO entrepreneurs, they're all female entrepreneurs, correct?
Yeah. So in order to apply, you need to be revenue generating. So it have at least $50,000 in revenue this year, up to a couple of million, be majority woman owned and woman led, and be able to answer how you're creating a better world. So that's the frame. And then the idea is that 500 women, this is our minimum size, 500 women come together, contribute $1,100 each. It's an act of radical generosity. They get a tax receipt in the United States for that $1,100. And then that money goes into a shared pool with all of the other 500 women's money. And then it's loaned out at 0% interest to 5 female entrepreneurs that are selected by those 500 women. So it's a crowdsourced decision-making and crowd-funded model. And then those ventures get 500 women on their team. So it's not only, radically generous funding terms, but it's also, a group of radically generous women to become early advisors and to make connections and referrals into customers, to become early customers, to market your products. It's a holistic design and not just financial capital, but all of our other social capital that we have, which is super underleveraged.
Also, we were talking a little bit before the podcast about having a platform that these entrepreneurs can have these advisors that they have, so many advisors that you can ask a question and you get a response within 24 hours.
Yeah. So we have an online community, and we have, one of the things that I've noticed over the years, and this is a personal thing, but it tends to be something I see in lots of other entrepreneurs as well, is we kind of put our heads down and do stuff on our own. And then we're surprised that we're alone. Part of the thing is we need to be asking for help. In the environment we're surrounded by a lot of the times, it's hard to ask for help. By having this network of radically generous women ready to help you at, any moment's time, we've created this structure where you ask for help every month. And so we summarize those asks, what's your biggest business need this month? And it goes out in an email format to everybody in the community. And within 24 hours, the ventures are getting exactly what they need from the network. Someone will put up their hand and support them. And so, do you know an ethical manufacturer in Taiwan? Can someone help me look over my financials? Can someone help me with my pitch deck? There's just a full range. And because we have such a broad group of people in the network and 100-to-1 ratio, so we have 100 activators for every single venture that's selected, someone's always paying attention, and it's working very organically.
And that goes into that culture of building a culture where women can make a difference. Like before, it was very regimented. You had to go and go on the golf course and make sure that you make those connections and all this stuff that we don't know anything about, but we do know about our social capital and we can activate that.
Yeah, well, I think I rarely meet a woman who doesn't want to help somebody, right? Like we're always giving all the time and supporting each other. The thing that's kind of neat about this environment is it's very much on your own terms. So if you become an activator in our network, which that's the name we have for women who are contributing their capital and their networks and their expertise, because they're activating all of that. When they come into the network, they do it on their own terms. If they're too busy and they have a crazy 3 months going on, that's totally fine. Don't worry about it. No guilt. Someone else is always paying attention. Like there's always someone on board. If you just want to contribute capital and not be engaged in helping the companies, that's fine too. If you want to dig in and you fall in love with one of the companies and you want to help and join their team and help them with their growing their business, you can do that too. It's very much on your own terms.
And who is that ideal activator? Or is there not an ideal? You really want that diversity of thought?
Well, it's interesting. I was in Seattle last week, and a woman gave me a great framing for, I always get asked this question. I'm like, there isn't an ideal activator. There's a range, but she did have a cool frame, which was women who are go-getters, who are go-givers, and who are learn-it-alls instead of know-it-alls. And I love this frame because it's like people that are curious and want to learn from others and are open, they'll learn it all. Who are just wanting to give when they see something that they can help it. And then the go-getter is, in our environment, if you sit back and wait for permission to do something, you're kind of disappointed because this is a network where you just jump in and take advantage of whatever you see. If you want to ask for help from others, if you want to self-organize events, if you want to become a customer of a company, if you want to help somebody, that's all up to you. So it's very much a self-serve environment. So go getter, go giver, and learn it all. I kind of love that phrase.
I do too, because it kind of goes into that aspect of just SheEO, very simple movement, SheEO, and it's go getter. I love that. I love that kind of aspect of that. And I see that, it's like we really want to make this world a better place. So that woman really wants to make that difference, that impact. And the platform that you've created is really robust. I've kind of been in it and seeing that. I'm so excited. I am an activator, so I'm all in. So I'm really excited about that. I really love that platform because it's really easy. It's really easy to get involved. What have you seen and what have you gotten some feedback from those ladies of saying, oh, I do have a construct to actually make an impact?
Yeah, I think the thing that's incredible is, like so many of us are like, oh, I wouldn't know how to pick companies. And I said, yeah, you do. You shop every day, right? Shopping is picking companies. That's, deciding. Our buying power is so strong. We make 80% of purchasing decisions. If we started to put our capital and our buying power towards the kinds of companies that create a better world, it would transform the economy. And so that's one of the things that we're paying attention to with SheEO. People are looking at what are all the kinds of companies women are running, and they're fascinating. My nieces are 14 and 15, and they became activators in the network in the first year. And each year, they sit down and they look at what are all these companies, and they had no idea really that you could do good and make money at the same time, and all of these great, cool ideas. And so it gives you a little bit of a backstage pass to what it's like to be an entrepreneur and see behind the scenes.
So those nieces that you have, I heard also that you have a high school program. I want to know all about that. That sounds so amazing.
So crazy. So it's $1,100 to be an activator. And there's a lot of aspiring activators out there in the network. They want to be part of this, that they didn't think they could afford it. And this young woman, Ellie, from a high school in California, started a SheEO club in high school. And she started talking to her friends about it because her mom was an activator. And her friends got excited. And so they created a club, and 45 high school girls are paying $25 each. And they're going to be an activator. So they will come into the network, and collectively they will select the ventures that they are excited about. And they'll see what it's like as these women start to grow their business and what it's like to be in this community. I'm so excited about this that we're going to start rolling out. If anyone else would like to start SheEO clubs, we're going to create a sort of curriculum around it. That's just experiential. This is like a backstage pass. It's really fun.
Yeah, I have a middle school girl. So it's like, I have how many more years until she can do that? It's very exciting because the younger that we get them involved in decision making, ripple effect onto everything of their lives, from their image of themselves, of their communities, of where they're going to go as career women, as mothers, as nieces, really just affects it so much.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we don't have magazines, women's businesses. The only thing we put on the cover is someone who IPOs, dudes in hoodies, basically, and a certain kind of company, unicorns, that we're just so obsessed with. But there's so many different kinds of success out there, and so many different kinds of great things you can do with your leadership and your entrepreneurial nature. And so exposing the next generation to that, and not just the next generation, but all of us, to see these great ideas. Women's innovations have been sitting on the sidelines for decades, underfunded and undersupported and undercelebrated. And we really want to change that with SheEO.
I love that, because that celebration of just those, in the whole scheme of things, you think they're little wins, but they're huge wins. And we need to see ourselves in those entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not just we're supporting young ones, right? Our entrepreneurs currently range from their early 30s to their mid 50s. In our first year, we had a 72-year-old with a startup who applied. I just love that. I think showing this full range is really important. And our activators who are showing up are ages 14 up to 92. So that is just really great as well.
And what have you found from the first set of activators, your testers? What did they tell you? What were the things that really they loved about the experience?
Activators love to select the ventures. One of the things that we hear is when we unveil who the companies are that get selected, they're like, oh my God, I voted for her. How exciting. Like they love to kind of see that. To witness the momentum and the growth of the companies as well is incredible. Another thing they love is watching the confidence building of, so an entrepreneur sort of is overwhelmed with being selected by 500 women and being validated by 500 women, and then watching her get up on stage and make her presentation. And each time they see her kind of grow and embolden, and as she starts to grow her business, that part of it is also something that sort of spins off to us too. And I notice activators in the network starting to dream a little bit bigger about themselves and what they're doing with their lives. So all of that is quite exciting. And then it's really cool to see other countries come on board. I was in New York last night and someone said, it's so great to see New Zealand joining us this year and to see someone from the Netherlands coming in and wanting to roll it out there, and Mexico and Australia, and being part of that larger group. And our goal is to get to 1 million women as soon as possible. And so at our current growth rate, we'll be there in 2026. So just imagine what it's going to be like, Sylvia, when we're standing there and there's 1 million women around the world who have created this $1 billion perpetual fund. Like it's a legacy we're going to leave for generations to come.
A huge, huge legacy. I mean, it gives me goosebumps thinking about that. And you created this platform, and that's the beauty of it, is that you said, hey, you know what? I need to figure this out. And you have figured it out. So I really love that. And thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Well, it only happens with women like you coming along and making this work. So
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to also think about New Zealand, because I know your story about New Zealand because you spoke at our Hera Venture Summit, which was amazing. But I love that story about New Zealand. Can you walk me through that? Because that was just amazing.
Yeah. Teresa Gatung, who's the top businesswoman from New Zealand, heard me speak in San Francisco a couple of years ago and emailed me and said, I'd love it if you'd come to New Zealand and I'll create a conference and you can speak at it. And I said, oh, sure. I didn't really think too much about it. And then I found myself on a plane to New Zealand going, why am I going to New Zealand? This is really far away. And I got there and I made this presentation at her beautiful event, World Women 17. And after I got off stage, she got up on stage and she said, I want this to be the first country outside North America to bring the SheEO model. So would everyone please pull out their phone and sign up?
Oh my God.
And I thought, oh my God, what? And by the time I left 4 days later, we had almost 400 women signed up. It was just unbelievable. And so Teresa is like a force of nature. She's absolutely incredible. She was the head of New Zealand Telecom, biggest telecom company there. And then after she left that, she co-founded a company called My Food Bag with another woman. And it's the fastest growing company in the last decade in New Zealand, $150 million in turnover. She's amazing. So when Teresa sort of stands up and validates something, people follow. And so that's how we came to New Zealand. And now we're going to Australia partly because of that, because Australia's like, wait a minute, how come this went to New Zealand first?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's really fun to see it roll out.
Yeah, they have some great angel groups also in Australia. So really great connections there too with those investors.
Yeah, I'm going there in November, so it'll be interesting to see.
Amazing, amazing. So, I mean, I'm blown away at what you've been able to accomplish. And one of the things that, those growing pains, because you're actually an entrepreneur. So how was that? How was that? Because that's always a great conversation.
Yeah, this has been, the most amazing and delightful thing I've ever done. And for sure, the hardest thing I've ever done. It's a big vision to put out there in the world. And I'm like, what if nobody shows up? So there's that first part of I think the more experience I have as an entrepreneur, the harder it is to keep the freshness. That first time you did something, you had no idea what you didn't know. Now I have too much ideas about what I don't know. So jumping into that was a little scary, to be honest. But then getting it out the door, it's just been really challenging because it's such a different idea. And I over-explained it to death. I think I tried to prove to everybody that I'd thought of every single angle. And of course, the only thing you know for sure as an entrepreneur is nothing is going to happen the way you think it does.
Exactly.
And so, just sort of jumping off a cliff again is just always an exhausting thing. And I always forget about it. I think it must be, I haven't had kids, but I think it must be like childbirth, right? You're in it and then you're like, what am I doing again? Getting it out the door. The regulatory environment has been really challenging. It took us almost 16 months to figure out how to roll this out into other markets around the world and find a simple structure. There's a lot of complicated structures, but finding something simple was hard. We're bootstrapped as an organization. I didn't go raise a whole bunch of money to do this. And so we ran it in our first year with 2 people. And then we ran it in our second year in 2 countries with 4 people. And now we're doing 3 countries with 6 people. So, everyone's doing the job of 10 people. And it's very, very fast paced and chaotic and iterative, and we're, running at the speed of light and just trying to keep up. All of those things about startup time where you're paying attention to 50 things at once and there isn't ever just one priority. There's so many. So that's been hard. And then, every branding person has come to me and said, could you just tell me what the persona is of an activator? I'm like, they're 14 to 92, all ages, all stages. Like there isn't one thing. And so when there's not just one message of what it means to be an activator, some people are in it for the legacy. Others are in it for the network. Others are in it to learn about being an entrepreneur. Others are in to help and share their expertise from being an entrepreneur. Just really, really broad. And so that sort of segmentation has really been something to try and understand and develop. And then on top of all of this, it's really, what does this want to be? I originally designed this just to get money into hand of female innovators. And what has occurred is the women who came in as activators now want their own program. They want to be working with each other and helping each other. And so it's much more generally about a radically generous community, even not just about the ventures. So all of that in the last 2.5 years has been some of the learning.
That's amazing. And I think one of the things that I see as an angel investor myself is that I need to meet women where they are and have that conversation about what about investing in another female entrepreneur. And I think that that's what I really find so attractive about SheEO is that, hey, you know what? You are just, wherever you are, we're going to meet you there. Right. And you only have to put in 1,000 to kind of figure out what this looks like. And you, like you just said earlier, it's like you are a good person, a good woman who can make a good decision on a startup.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think women's intuition is unbelievable. Like I would trust the intuition of 500 women over 5 experts in a room any day, right? Like women's intuition is unbelievable. We look at things and we're like, does that make sense? I've always wanted to do this Twitter feed. When you're watching a pitch at these pitch competitions and you see like the dudes get up on stage and say, I'm disrupting the universe, blah, 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 whatever they're doing. I would love to see a stream on one side of what guys are thinking when they're watching that pitch and on the other side, what women are thinking. Because I'll just sit with my female friends and go, really? Does anyone really believe that's going to happen? We're just so much more practical. And I think that, that's been sort of denigrated as, women are risk averse. I don't think so at all. I think women are incredibly risk savvy and the world needs so much more of that right now.
Risk savvy in the right things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. The things that make the impact. And I think that that's one of the things that I see also that women do so well is that what is a true impact? Yeah, there might be, percentage that you give away to somebody else. No, really, truly, what is the impact of that startup?
Right. Absolutely. Well, and I think that's the other thing too, is that when you look at where women put their money, they want to create better communities, health and education, and they want to make sure that there's a positive impact. It's not just about making money. There's that dual track, which is what we're focused on at SheEO.
And focusing on those entrepreneurs, where are the entrepreneurs that you funded the first beta test? Where are they at? How are they doing?
Sure. So the entrepreneurs are doing incredibly well. In fact, 7 of our 10 Canadian ventures are raising follow-on capital to the tune of $12 million right now. Amazing. So they're growing up to 1,100% in revenue, hiring lots of new people. I think there's 25 or 30 new jobs in the last 16 months from those 10 companies. It's just been off the charts. So, and it's not just the revenue growth in the jobs, but their personal development, their belief in themselves, their boldness is so much higher. I think all but one are exporting right now and then leveraging our network in other countries to help grow their businesses. So it's working so far. I'm very excited and I'm really positive about where this is going. Of course, there's lots of things to iterate. There's lots of things that we'd like to do better, but we're co-creating this with our community and paying attention to make sure that it's stronger and stronger. And as we go into new cultures and new markets, we'll observe, what we need to tweak there as well.
That's excellent because those entrepreneurs really are at the forefront of why we're doing what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Growing because of those thoughts and that culture that you're creating.
Yeah, I mean, underneath this, everything we're doing, radical generosity is really important. And I think this is why we don't have a return on your initial capital contribution. I believe that when you come in with the mindset of having to get your money back, you treat the entrepreneurs differently. You're worried about getting your money back. You're a little bit more punitive. You're a little less trusting. You're a bit more controlling. And my insight was, what would happen if you were surrounded as an entrepreneur with a radically generous community of people? Would you dream bigger? Would you be bolder? Would you step a little bit farther into your discomfort zone to try something? And that's what we're witnessing is happening. These entrepreneurs are growing way faster than they ever would have in the normal ecosystems they're supported by because they're surrounded by radically generous women. And so they're stepping out of that to go even farther. The existing environments that we're in were not designed by women to support women. Mm-mm. They were designed by men. And so this is a radical rethink on, if we were creating an environment for women to really thrive and reach their potential, what would that look like? And for me, that underlying piece is radical generosity.
I love that. And then also the activators that are in there, they also have that sense of empowerment as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny to watch people go, you know what, maybe I should be living a little bit bigger. Maybe, do I have an idea that I want to achieve in the world? And watching that emboldening spirit is really very special.
Yeah. And also if they're in a corporate environment too, they said, oh no, I'm going to go after that job that I've always wanted, or that salary increase that I've always thought about asking for. They're going to boldly go out and ask for those things.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, here's a funny story that happened at our gala last year in Canada. The former CEO of Amex is one of our activators. And she happened to be in the restroom with another woman who was, I don't even know how they started this conversation, but they were both washing their hands. And one of them said, oh, I'm going to be interviewing at Amex this week. And she goes, oh, I used to be the CEO. Let me help you. And so she coached her on her interview. And you're like, oh my God, like where else does this happen? It was just a bit of magic.
It's always magic like that, yeah. of meeting your tribe.
So good.
And meeting that one-on-one is so important as well.
Absolutely, it is.
And the gala is where you bring everybody together and you introduce the entrepreneurs and they pitch and everybody gets to decide on the top.
Yeah, that's correct. So the decision is made prior to that. That's where we unveil it. So all of the voting for the top 25 and then the top 5 is done online through, you get an email from us and then you log in and you look at the applications and you make your decisions. And then we announce that at the summit and gala. And then you meet all of the other women activators that day and you hear from them. And we've designed it in a way for you to meet as many people as possible and find your mini tribe within the larger tribe.
That's genius. That's genius. So in the final couple of minutes that we have together, anything else that you want to talk about with SheEO? What has been changed in your life or any other? I love all of your examples and stories.
Yeah. The kinds of companies we're selecting are fantastic. So they range from an AI company, which does recognition of emotions from text. So you can literally feed in text into their system and it'll spin out what the emotions are and how you can actually deal better with your customers. So for example, everyone who becomes an activator at SheEO writes their I'm in statement, why they're in. And we've looked at that. And the number one reason people are in is for joy. And the next one is for trust and then love. Imagine what the emotions would be around a VC fund. I'm not sure they would be joy and trust and love.
No.
But maybe a little bit of greed. And so that's been fascinating. So an AI company to a company that has toys that teach empathy and failure, to a rethinking of the walker and the wheelchair called the Alinker, to breathable food wrap because of all our food wrap right now is toxic and plastic. And so if you wrap an avocado with this food wrap, it stays green for 4 days. Just amazing stuff. So from health and wellness and education and adaptive lifestyles, just a broad cross-section as you can imagine, what 500 women would decide on each year. So it's fascinating to see what shows up.
That's amazing. Definitely the walker is something I have been eyeing. My son was in a walker until he was in second grade. So really exciting. We always were, he has a little bright green walker going at it, and we needed him to go over. He wanted to go hiking with us and we could never find anything. So the walker that we chose had huge wheels because he wanted to hike with us. I'm like, okay, let's go hiking, So definitely everybody's with those ladies are all bringing together their experiences, their lives are going to be all intermingled into that decision-making process too.
Absolutely. That's so cool. And the other thing is everybody who applies to SheEO gets feedback on their application. So activators can write comments. So last year, everybody got feedback. And now we're adding a component where if you're excited about a venture, you can check a box and say, I'd like to be connected with this venture. And so it's a way to basically market your product or service to hundreds of women. And so we're being radically generous with every aspect of this as we can.
That's amazing. I love that. So in the last couple minutes too, I wanted to go over our rapid final 4 questions that I ask everybody because it's really exciting to see where people go. So number 1 is, what's your favorite angel investing resource?
My intuition.
I love that. And the collective wisdom of everybody else.
Women. Yeah, exactly.
I love that. That was great. Number 2 is, what's your favorite book?
My favorite book right now is Donut Economics by Kate Raworth. She's from Cambridge. I love this book. It just really talks about what another kind of economy could look like. It's great.
Fascinating. Number 3 is, who has been a major influence in your life?
I had a mentor, my uncle, who just really set me up. He gave me this great line very early in my career, which was, if you want money, ask for advice. And if you want advice, ask for money, which is amazing. So that was one. And then there's a brilliant Chilean economist named Manfred Max Neef, Neef. And I just kind of blown away by his worldview of human scale economics. So Max Neef would be the next one.
Hence your global domination of a new democratized investment world. Yes.
I want to see a whole new world.
Yes. Really, I love that. So number 4 is, what does abundance mindset mean to you?
Well, in fact, I actually think the tool for an abundance mindset is radical generosity, right? It's like stepping in to giving before receiving. Super tough thing to do for a lot of people. But the more I've done that in my life, the more I feel like I have. And just one example is, before I answer any email, before I connect with somebody, before I react to something that happens, I ask myself, what is the radically generous response? And that makes me feel happier and better, and like I have more around me. It's literally changed my life since this concept of radical generosity came to my mind. And I practice it all the time. And how can I be radically generous towards myself? I think about it all the time. And so when I, as an entrepreneur in our network, or as a woman in our network, when you start to think, literally you have whatever you need around you, what would you like? And asking for help around that is really quite special.
And giving yourself that leeway to ask for help too.
Yeah, that's a big one for sure.
So, well, thank you so much for being part of the podcast. It has been a tremendous pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Vicki.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to and subscribing to the She Invest podcast. Go on over to sheinvest.com for the full show notes for this episode, as well as any resources, websites, and opportunities mentioned during the show. Sign up for the sheinvest.com newsletter to learn about events like our annual Hera Venture Summit during the month of September and our She Invests monthly investor circles. Thank you for your time, talent, and treasure.